Modeling and simulation are among the most powerful tools in modern scientific research. They allow scientists and engineers to explore systems too vast, small, dangerous, or complex to study directly. But what exactly are models and simulations, and why are they so important? A model is a simplified representation of reality. It could be mathematical, physical, or computational. For example, Newton's equations model the motion of planets. A simulation is what happens when we run this model through a computer to see how the system behaves under different conditions. Imagine predicting a hurricane's path, testing how a drug will interact with human cells, or simulating the behavior of particles in a nuclear reactor. These are all made possible through simulation. Why are simulations so essential in science today? First, they save time and resources. Consider building a rocket. Would it make sense to physically test every design idea? That would be extremely expensive and risky. Instead, simulations of fluid dynamics, heat transfer, and structural stress help engineers identify the best design before anything is built. In medicine, simulations model the spread of viruses across populations or predict how an artificial organ will function under stress. During the COVID-19 pandemic, models helped public health officials understand how changes in policy might impact infection rates. Would you feel confident making decisions affecting millions of people without some kind of simulation? Simulations are also critical in physics and chemistry. For example, researchers use quantum mechanical simulations to predict how new materials might behave at the atomic scale without ever synthesizing them in the lab. This approach has led to the discovery of superconductors, battery materials, and even new pharmaceuticals. In molecular dynamics, simulations reveal how proteins fold or how nanoparticles interact with biological membranes, problems that are impossible to observe in real time. But models are not perfect. A model is only as good as its assumptions. What happens if you leave out a crucial variable or use the wrong equation? The simulation may give you beautiful results, completely wrong ones. That's why validation is critical. Scientists test models against real-world data and revise them continually. This is also why it's dangerous to blindly trust computer outputs without understanding the underlying science. Can simulations replace experiments entirely? Not quite. In fact, the best science often happens when experiments and simulations work together. Simulations guide experiments by predicting what might happen, and experiments guide simulations by showing where the model succeeds or fails. This cycle of feedback accelerates discovery. Even in fields like psychology, economics, or ecology, simulations help make sense of complex systems. For instance, agent-based modeling can simulate the behavior of crowds, markets, or even ecosystems. How do flocks of birds move in sync? What happens when predator and prey populations interact over time? These kinds of questions are explored through simulations that capture dynamic interactions between individuals and environment. Young researchers and students should not see simulation as something abstract or intimidating. Learning to model systems, even simple ones, is an exercise in critical thinking. It forces you to ask, what matters in this system? What can be simplified? What needs to be measured? It is an approach that teaches you not only how to solve problems, but how to define them. Modeling and simulation are not just technical tools. They are ways of seeing. They give us a lens to understand the world, to ask what if, and to explore what we cannot yet touch. Whether studying the climate, designing nanoscale machines, or curing diseases, the future of science depends on our ability to model the invisible and simulate the unknown. Models are abstract, simplified representations of real systems that capture essential variables and relationships while omitting extraneous detail. Simulations execute those models over time or across parameter spaces to reveal system behavior under controlled conditions. Together, they enable researchers to explore complex phenomena that are impractical, dangerous, or impossible to study directly in the physical world. By iterating between model refinement and simulated results, scientists build deeper conceptual understanding and predictive capability. Climate scientists use atmospheric circulation models to project future temperature and precipitation patterns under different greenhouse gas scenarios. A model is like a scale replica of a building. It shows the core structure without every brick, while a simulation is like running virtual tours through it to see how people move inside. Analytical models express relationships through closed-form equations that yield exact solutions under idealized assumptions, but often fail for highly nonlinear systems. Computational models approximate complex equations via algorithms and discretization, enabling exploration of detailed dynamics in fluid flows, chemical reactions, and biological networks. Statistical models infer relationships from data, quantifying uncertainty and guiding hypothesis generation when underlying mechanisms are unknown. Each model type has strengths and trade-offs. Analytical for insight, computational for realism, and statistical for empirical validation. A predator-prey system can be described by simple Lotka-Volterra equations, analytical, simulated on a spatial grid, computational, or fitted to field survey data, statistical. Choosing a model type is like picking a tool. Use a ruler for straight lines, a drill for shaping complex curves, or a magnifying glass, statistical, to inspect data patterns. Verification confirms that a simulation correctly implements the intended model equations and algorithms, ensuring computational accuracy free from coding errors. Validation assesses whether the model reliably reproduces real-world observations or experimental outcomes, building confidence in its applicability. Iterative comparison between simulated outputs and empirical data highlights model deficiencies and guides parameter tuning or structural refinement. Rigorous verification and validation transform a theoretical construct into a trustworthy decision support tool. Engineers validate a wind tunnel simulation of airplane wing aerodynamics by comparing lift and drag coefficients against physical test measurements. Verification and validation are like proofreading a recipe, verification and tasting the dish, validation to ensure it matches the intended flavor. Simulations extend the scientific method by enabling virtual experiments that predict system behavior under novel conditions before physical trials. They allow systematic testing of what-if scenarios, isolating causal factors and complex interactions where controlled lab experiments would be impractical. Predictions generated by models can direct resource allocation to the most promising experimental pathways, accelerating discovery. Hypotheses that survive simulation-based scrutiny gain credibility prior to costly real-world validation. Drug developers use molecular docking simulations to predict how candidate compounds bind to target proteins, narrowing down thousands of possibilities to a handful for synthesis and testing. Running simulations is like using flight simulators for pilots. It tests responses to emergencies without risking lives or equipment. Sensitivity analysis quantifies how changes in input parameters affect simulation outcomes, identifying critical drivers of system behavior. Uncertainty quantification assesses the confidence range around predictions by propagating known variability and measurement error through the model. Together, these techniques reveal which assumptions matter most and where additional data collection will most reduce predictive uncertainty. Transparent uncertainty estimates prevent overconfidence in model-based decisions and support risk-aware planning. Hydrologists perform sensitivity analysis on rainfall runoff models to determine which soil properties most influence flood forecasts. It's like testing different ingredients in a recipe to see which ones most change the final taste, then measuring how confident you are in each flavor outcome. Real systems often span scales from molecular to planetary that no single experiment or model can capture in full detail. Multiscale modeling couples coarse-grained approximations at large scales with fine-grained detail where it matters, balancing accuracy and computational tractability. Reduced-order models distill complex simulations into simplified surrogates for rapid exploration and control applications. Effective scale bridging enables insights into emergent phenomena arising from interactions across hierarchical levels. Weather forecasting models couple global atmospheric circulation grids, low resolution, with localized high-resolution convection models in storm-prone regions. Multiscale modeling is like sketching a city skyline for a postcard, then zooming in on a street map to plan a walking route. Its simulations drastically cut costs, time, and environmental impact by replacing or reducing physical prototyping and field trials. Virtual experimentation allows thousands of parameter combinations to be evaluated in hours rather than months, accelerating iterative design and optimization. They also enable exploration of extreme or hazardous conditions, e.g., reactor meltdown, space re-entry, that cannot be tested safely in reality. The economic and ethical benefits of simulation-driven research make it indispensable in engineering, medicine, and environmental policy. Automotive manufacturers crash test virtual car models under varied collision scenarios before building physical prototypes. Running virtual tests is like playing a video game to practice strategies before competing in a real tournament. Low cost, zero risk, modeling and simulation provide a common quantitative language that unites disciplines, biology, physics, economics, around shared computational frameworks. Modular model architectures facilitate component reuse and collaborative development of complex systems, speeding collective progress. Open-source modeling platforms democratize access, enabling scientists worldwide to build on each other's work and ensure reproducibility. This integrative approach dissolves siloed research and fosters holistic solutions to global challenges. Epidemiologists, climatologists, and economists collaboratively model pandemic impacts on health systems, supply chains, and climate feedbacks. Integrated modeling is like building Lego sets with standardized connectors. Anyone can contribute pieces that snap seamlessly into the structure. Machine learning accelerates simulation by discovering surrogate models that emulate complex dynamics at a fraction of the computational cost. AI-driven optimization automates parameter tuning and model calibration, reducing human effort and improving accuracy. Digital twins, virtual replicas, continuously updated with live sensor data, enable real-time monitoring and predictive maintenance of infrastructure, industry, and ecosystems. As computing power grows, AI-augmented simulation will become the cornerstone of proactive decision-making in science and engineering. Aerospace firms use digital twins of jet engines to predict component wear and schedule maintenance before failures occur. AI-augmented simulation is like equipping a bicycle with a smart assistant that learns your riding style and suggests optimal routes and maintenance schedules.